Hi everyone. I did a little video last night around what's stopping you in your business, and one of the common themes, and actually I hear this a lot throughout our organization from people who've been trained and at different stages when you meet people, is that fear of complications is one of the big limiting factors in building your clinic, and that's actually kind of rightfully so, that you have a big fear of if something goes wrong, what's that going to mean for my business? And so you think, well, until I feel sure about that, I'm not going to keep building my business and on building your clinic. And in many ways, that's kind of a good thing. So I wanted to try and break down what you can do to get over a fear of complications in practice, because it's not easy, but there is a route, because some people do it, obviously, and so there must be a way. The first thing I'd say is, you've got to take on board that this fear of complications is not it's more of a fear of what will happen to you if there is a complication, because none of us linger outside other people's clinics checking capillary refill for that clinician. It's not our responsibility. So this is all linked with responsibility and what will actually happen to you if you don't know what to do and there's a complication. And that is linked also massively with us being healthcare professionals, and we know that we are going to be held accountable. Like, it's actually going to affect our life personally if we are not in a position to properly care for our patients and something happens to our patients. So it's kind of a good thing that if you feel afraid about complications. But the next thing is to try and actually figure out what this anxiety is telling you and what you need to do to move away from it, so that you can actually get on and build something that helps your patients and keeps people safe. So if you think about what anxiety is, it's kind of a fear of something that's in the unknown often. So a big part of anxiety, the way I understand it, is that there's an unknown quantity, like what will happen if, and it's kind of a big question mark, and that's kind of what keeps you awake and makes you stop doing things. It's the uncertainty that lies ahead. So probably one of the best things you can do to avoid complications is actually start to break down that uncertainty and actually try and this is hard work. This takes some mental effort to break this down and decide what to do next. But get really clear about where this anxiety is. Now, I've talked to trainees about this who've been stuck in this situation, and it's really interesting, the stuff that you get back. So for some people, it's about being hated. Like, their deepest fear is that they will do something and other people will hate them. Like, it's not even about being sued and losing money. It's about putting yourself in a position where you end up as this hated figure of this, this dreadful kind of Botox doctor or Botox nurse who hurts people and takes money from them, and you end up a pariah in your neighborhood. Like, that's a really deep down fear. For other people, it is about being sued. For some, it's about losing their livelihood. Like, I've come this far and I've got this thing, and if it fails and someone gets hurt, then I'm going to lose my livelihood, and my children will end up on baked beans. So it's that's a real quote from someone who we know quite well, who's doing really well. But we all have those things. So first of all, understand what it is that your anxiety is telling you that you need to guard safely, because otherwise it's just anxiety. It's like this horrible feeling. If you can ask yourself a series of questions, so we usually call it like the 5 whys, like you ask yourself why 5 times, and you usually get down to a root cause that's actually fundamentally important to your survival, and it is basically that. If the fear, if the emotion that you have is so powerful that it's actually making you unhappy, like, it's life and death. Like, on an emotional level, it's life and death. Now, when you break it down, you often discover, oh, it's not actually life and death, because now I realize that, it's unlikely that by having a complication that my whole neighborhood will hate me. You might reach that conclusion. You also may not. But first of all, it's understanding why this is important. So really break down the fear, what's driving you to not do these treatments, what the real threat to your existence is, and from then you can better decide on how to move forward. So the next thing in terms of moving forward is to actually explode the different variables. So anxiety is a lot about uncertainty, complications about uncertainty. How do you manage that uncertainty? How do you reach a point where you've got enough in your armory of kind of skills and knowledge and experience that you feel like you've got enough certainty to move forward? You will never have 100% certainty. I don't have 100% certainty. Something bad could happen in my clinic this afternoon. that's never happened before on the face of the earth, and I'm not even able to diagnose it because I've never seen it before. That is possible. It's just incredibly unlikely, so I don't feel scared going in and doing my clinic this afternoon. So break down exactly what it is you're afraid of. For mostly this is vascular occlusion for most people. So you're thinking, if I get a vascular occlusion, everyone in my neighborhood is going to hate me and I'm going to lose my business. So if that's the equation, the story that you're telling in your head, it's very clear why you find that so terrifying. The story in my head, if I get a vascular occlusion, is very different, and that's what I want you guys to move towards, which is the story in my head is if I get a vascular occlusion, I'm going to diagnose it early. It'll be a small one because of my injection techniques, and I'm going to know how to treat it. I'm going to rescue that patient, and then I'm actually going to use that as a teaching experience so that other people get better at aesthetics as well. That's exactly what I did with the only occlusion I've had with me injecting. And I knew that was going to be the process all the way along. So for me, I don't get anxiety in the same way because I feel like I'm protected because of all that I've done to take steps to make myself safe. And that's the key thing. Identify the threat. I'm scared of vascular occlusion. Break down exactly what you do and don't know about vascular occlusion. This is kind of like an audit of what you... And this is where the hard thinking comes on, because you need to literally look at every single step. Oh my God, the lip is blue. What do you do next? If that's not clear in your head, you're going to have uncertainty and you're going to think, I'm just going to fall to pieces. It's almost like it's okay to be on the edge of uncertainty, but you need to at every stage know the most important thing to do so that the outcome is least uncertain that you can make it. So do you know how to rapidly diagnose an occlusion? If you don't know the answer to that, start working on that problem. That's the first step. Make sure I'm actually working on a video which we're going to release for free, which will help you with this. So it's much more structured than this type of video where I'm just talking live to the camera. But make sure you can diagnose it. If you can diagnose it, what do you do next? So that's your next what if. So okay, it actually is an occlusion, what do I do next? If that's not really clear in your head, you're going to have uncertainty. You can see this is going to repeat and repeat. So if you do know how to treat it, you start off the process of treating it. Do you know how long that's going to take? This is something that created massive uncertainty in me. In the occlusion I had, is it took longer than I thought. It took 90 minutes instead of 45 minutes. And I went through my realm of comfort into the realm of uncertainty, and it felt awful. So that's the kind of thing that will lower your phobia. You know that if you get an occlusion, it's going to probably take 90 minutes to dissolve, and you're going to inject high laser, every 20 minutes, whatever protocol you decide to follow. And at the end of that, you should reduce the risk of, or you should restore blood flow. If you haven't, what are you going to do next? This is it, the continuous questioning. What are you going to do to decrease uncertainty? So I'm going to get help from an online forum from the beginning, so I've got advice from someone, or I know the phone number of a doctor or an experienced nurse practitioner who will help me. So you have that in what you're going to do next. What if it still doesn't work? What if I can't? What if if you can? The principle I'm trying to get across is if you can answer every what if with a practical step, your anxiety will will go away, and you will feel in control. And the more detailed and vivid that is in your mind, the better that you feel about it. And then when you've got this beautiful map drawn out, literally written out, protocol, stepwise process, who you're going to call at every point where it doesn't work out, so that you ultimately feel like you've got a detailed plan that can keep your patient safe, and remembering it's going to protect you, because that's really what this is all about. You've got a plan that's going to leave you in a position where you can be certain that you're not going to lose your livelihood, you're not going to get sued and be hated and be a pariah and end up with your children eating baked beans. Then you will naturally, your anxiety will go away, because every time you have an anxious thought, you've got an answer for it. And actually, that is what anxiety is really for. It's supposed to be, well, actually, there's a difference between fear and anxiety. So I am still afraid of occlusions. Every single time I inject, I feel afraid that something bad will happen. What I don't have is anxiety, because anxiety is a futile loop of what ifs where there's no answer. So the answer to your problem is have an answer to all of your what ifs, and your anxiety turns to fear. Fear is not a bad thing. If you're a tightrope walker and you're crossing a ravine, you need to be afraid of falling, but you don't have anxiety because you have control. So the answer to all of your fears around is to go in and delve in and get answers and write them down and spell it out and imagine what it feels like, and go to courses and read books and get involved. A really good tip is to get involved with online forums where you see people having occlusions. Actually try and force yourself to think through what you would do. Instead of just watching the comments and seeing what other people do, try and drive the algorithm in your own head so that you're starting to generate answers for each one of those problems that you see. And that's going to diminish your anxiety, and it's going to diminish your anxiety for the right reason, which is because you're going to know what the hell to do when something goes wrong, because you've done the hard work and you've thought through it and you've answered every question on your list and you've ended up feeling certain. So Tracy, it's happened to me 3 times in 6 years and it's still something I worry about. Yeah, as I say, Tracy, no problem worrying about it. Just use that worry to drive you to action. That's what worry is for. Make it safer. We just had a board meeting this morning about the future of how we organise Skin Viva training. And one of our key strategic goals is to improve safety. And even though we do tons of things, I don't feel like we're finished at all. Like, there's loads of things I can do to make things safer. And sometimes when I see a really nasty occlusion, that's my immediate response is I don't care if we're 1 in a million, I want to be 1 in 10 million, right, or 1 in 100 million. I just want to make it safer. And that's okay, as long as the crucial thing is with anxiety is it stops you doing anything. That's bad for everyone, because actually you don't actually improve safety, because they'll go around the corner and they'll still have their treatment. And you've got a clinician who really cares about the outcome, who doesn't want to cause harm to someone who's stuck and isn't actually contributing. So there's something in it for everyone if you can use this anxiety to drive you to get safer, by decreasing the uncertainty, by having an answer for every single question that pops into your head, a practical, stepwise answer to how to get out of that, and the anxiety will go away. You'll become a really safe practitioner quite quickly if you keep doing that process. And that's great for everyone. So everyone gets safer, you get to build a business. You don't have to lie in bed waiting, suffering at night because of the what ifs, because you've got an answer for all of them and you've built them into your process. One of them, for example, what if I miss it before I go home? And I'll just close on this. Checking capillary refill after every single procedure that you do is a really good way to leave anxiety at the door, but you have to believe that that's associated with not causing an occlusion. So doing it regularly, you will start to get a real sense that this is real, and one day you'll see an occlusion that will seem really obvious to you. Sometimes you see them on videos on Facebook as well. You'll get really certain that you can sleep well at night because you've done your check. You've given them a safety net, then you know what they'll do if there's a problem, and you will feel better and happier and safer and keep building your business. So those are the broad principles of what to do about anxiety and from complications. It's start to methodically work your way through, and I hope that helps. Any questions, as always, if you write them on the list. Yeah, Tracy says it's very obvious when it happens. I agree, the ones I've seen have been pretty obvious. But I hope you work your way through that list. It'd be great if you shared that list. If you've got a list of 3 or 4 things that are terrifying, you've actually isolated them, you've kind of made that vague problem into a very specific problem, then share that on the list. That'd be great. Tag anyone who you think this will be useful to. Share it if you think it's useful. I really appreciate all that, and thank you all very much for watching. I will probably see you again tomorrow. Bye.